Freedom Junkie Radio. Today I have Istvan Mohos with us. And I'm just going to start by saying no one can bring down the stars for you, but a new technology can certainly bring us ozone, naturally protecting you and your environment against bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Today, my guest, Istvan Mohos, is a serial entrepreneur, Hungarian immigrant to the US, and the man who has unveiled an amazing technology, which is totally changing the paradigm when it comes to disinfection. No more chemicals. Welcome, Istvan, to Freedom Junkie Radio.
Welcome, and thank you very much for having me for this interview and for this talk. And thank you for the opportunity for showing off basically our technology and what's behind it.
Well, I'm so blown away by what makes me so excited is that we do so much disinfection from our homes, but we've spoken of like chicken houses. If you think of that, how disgusting they are and how many literal tons of chemicals are used to disinfect chicken houses every day in the world. And this technology is O3, it's ozone, and I want you to tell us all about it. But there are no chemicals going into the sewers, going into the earth, going into the atmosphere. This is a game changer for our environment and our planet. So tell us about this technology.
Yes, and thank you. And little do people know, or the audience know, but you had a little trial or demo, so you have managed to sense and feel ozone before. Everyone has who has spent some time in a storm or after lightning, or even if it's just a little circuit or wrong circuit in the house and it creates a little lightning or a little flash every now and then, that is enough to break apart the ozone molecules, creating single ozone atoms. And these single ozone atoms or oxygen atoms will produce your ozone. Now, ozone gas is a natural occurring gas. It protects our Earth, as we know, from all the radiation and all the craziness of the universe. And it also protects the Earth at ground level. Most of you already heard of ozone, ground level ozone being too much in the summer and don't be outside too much.
Yeah, ozone action days.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And that ozone is caused basically by chemicals in the air plus ultraviolet radiation. So we can really say that there is bad ozone and good ozone.
Well, because it's deadly.
It can be, yes, it can be deadly. It can harm everything because it oxidizes. It's the strongest oxidant, and as the strongest oxidant, it will even eat metal over the years. So,
but you're using it to kill, like you said, fungi, bacteria, viruses. It kills everything because of the concentration that you guys have brought to us.
Yes. So as the strongest oxidant. Basically what it does, it oxidizes the cell wall of any bacteria, any fungi, any microbes. And because the cell wall falls apart, the whole molecule will fall apart. So for this reason, there's no resistance to ozone. So that is also an amazing advantage for this technology, that there's no resistance. Antibiotics, we will run out of them because we use so many strains, and Salmonella learns quickly. E. coli, I think it learned in 2 weeks. It can change its whole DNA and its whole attributes, and it will change into an E. coli that will be resistant to your antibiotics. Right. So it's really insane. But with ozone, you don't have to deal with this because it will just oxidize everything.
It always
on the
kills,
surface,
yeah.
Yes, on the surface and in air.
It leaves surfaces completely sterile.
It can. So there are obviously, when you do disinfection, then you have to look at the different levels of disinfection. So there is like a residential level, we like to call it. There's commercial, industrial, food grade, and the highest level is pharmaceutical grade. So obviously, pharmaceutical grade has to be sterile. So generally, what they say is it has to be a 5 colony forming unit or less on a surface, on a square inch. And this colony forming unit, CFU, right now on our hands, probably there's a billion.
A billion
Even, yeah.
colonies of things.
Yes, anything. Little bacteria. I know that, and this is why when you see that something is antibacterial or kills viruses to 99.9%, or then there's the new ones, 99.99. And there's a lot of meaning behind it, because when you think of a billion microbes, then that 0.001% is still more than 100,000. And every virus or every bacteria has a different minimum required count that will cause an infection for sure. And I think in case of salmonella, you need only 16 or 18 units to get you infected. Now imagine that in a bird poop in a chicken house that you mentioned, there can be, I think, more than a billion in one little gram of manure. And, that gets on the egg, that gets in their feed, that gets everywhere. So that's how they can cross-contaminate the food chain, the chickens, if they are not properly cleaned and disinfected.
Okay, so these are machines you have.
Yes.
Tell us
absolutely.
about the machines.
So the best thing about the technology is it creates the super high concentration of ozone gas from ambient air into ambient air. So what we do is a little magic. We just change this whole environment of the room into a super high concentration of ozone gas, so the highest oxidant, and kill everything in the air and on the surfaces. That's what the machine does. The machine does not require anything other than the regular 120 or 110, 60 hertz power. That's all it needs. You just plug and play. It's computer controlled, and you can set the requested time for the amount of space or goods or grain or whatever you want to sterilize, and it will do its job.
Okay, so if you were going to sterilize a chicken house, how long would it take?
It generally depends on the space, because there can be, a chicken house for 5,000 birds, and there can be a chicken house for 20 or 40,000 birds. But and we have different sizes of machines for the different needs in the food industry or residential or commercial. With the biggest machine that we have, you can cover more than 30,000 square foot space. So covering that space would require like 12 hours minimum.
Okay.
12 to 24 hours, depending on the infestation. Because if the chicken house is fully infested with mealworms, with darkling beetles, northern mite, and whatever attacks the chicken and gets into our food chain, then you need more time. Because at this level with the chicken houses, we want to eliminate pests, bugs, not just viruses, because a virus or bacteria on the surface requires like 4 minutes. Like influenza virus, we would kill in less than 4 minutes on the surface. But if it's a bed bug, for example, then it has its armor, it has its little things. It's harder to oxidize. So bed bugs are pretty tough. They would require more than 24 hours. They would require like 48 hours.
Okay, so hold on a minute. Bed bugs.
Yeah.
You could do this in a hotel that had infested with bed bugs.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because you're not using any chemicals, so you don't have to wait. After you treat a room for bed bugs, and the treatment is over, you can just walk into the room and have the next guest ready. You don't have to move out anything. You didn't have to close the whole thing down. There was no hazmat or chemicals involved. Your employees did not have to mix any chemicals or store it. So absolutely,
I,
it's an easy way.
I thought they used to do it with, or were doing it with heat. They were raising the temperature of,
Absolutely.
like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get
Yes.
a room hot enough to kill the bed bugs in a mattress.
There is, yes, that's the other natural way of killing bed bugs, and that's also a very absolutely good way. It's just more expensive because these large space heaters that they use, industrial space heaters, they require much more electricity.
Okay.
So you use a lot of energy to do that, and a lot of fans. And also, it's very hard sometimes to keep the room for 2-3 days at that temperature, because
Yeah.
these bugs, bed bugs especially, or any bug, they are all roaming and migrating, so they will not sit still and wait for their death. So and if there's a drop in the temperature, or there is a little place for it to get out, it will run away.
Okay. So we've said chicken houses, bed bugs, so hotels. What other industries, where else are you using this technology?
We are using right now, in obviously because of COVID, a lot of office buildings, restaurant and caterings, anywhere from the food industry to the commercial side. So larger warehouses, waiting rooms in public transportation, buses, trains, that they have to be in service the next morning. So you don't have time. You don't even have time to use chemicals. However, most people nowadays, they do not want to use chemicals because of the residues, the toxic residues that will remain on the surface, that will remain in the carpet, in the textiles. And the next day, people traveling on the given train, or waiting in the hospital waiting room, which was chemically treated, they will inhale that. And believe it or not, there's more than 100,000 intoxication or poisoning per year because of household chemicals, and 43% of these poisoning are for children under 6. And that's because of the residues on the surfaces, because they will lick it, they will put it in their mouth, and guess what? In a minute or two, they are sucking on Clorox residue
I mean,
or Lysol residue.
I have always been a holistic housekeeper. I don't use Clorox and Lysol. I never wanted that in my house. I just naturally knew I don't want to be breathing chemicals. So I've always used vinegar and baking soda and essential oils. But this ozone takes it, disinfecting your house to another level.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you can't get it that clean. So in a hospital, say, where you've had really sick people with viruses, super bacteria, this is like staph and strep. I mean, it kills all this.
Everything, yeah.
And
And the good thing in ozone, that it's gaseous, and it will go everywhere. It will go behind the curtain, under the table, in every nook and cranny it will get into, and will oxidize whatever is there.
and through the air ducts as well.
Absolutely, it can, and sometimes it is a problem for us, because in some places the coil system is interconnected. They don't even know, and you would think that in a hospital each and every operating room is a separate AC unit, but not. Many times 3, 4, 5, 8 operating rooms are interconnected with the HVAC system. So a patient coughing or having anything in one can get to the other operating room. So it's really dangerous. And hospitals have problems with it, but we can solve it, because, as I said, ozone gas will get in everywhere, get into the coils, get into the full system, disinfecting and sterilizing everything.
This is amazing. I feel like this is going to change. It's a paradigm shift. It's going to help us create this new earth where we're not killing the earth anymore and not knowing what else to do, so there've been those little ozone machines around for decades that people put in their house and they live with them. It's obviously not concentrated enough to where it would kill you. So, I mean, your machine, how is the technology different with yours? Because people say, oh yeah, ozone, I've got that. And it's like, oh, no, 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 you don't. What's the difference? And explain how it would kill a person if they were in the room.
Yes, it's only for unoccupied spaces. So obviously we always have to make sure that everyone is out, all living, or everything that you want to
To live.
to live has to get out of the room, because this is really the strongest disinfectant. But the technology and advancement is, as you mentioned, ozone technology has been around for more than 100 years. First, on the turn of the 19th or 20th century, in 1905, they started to use it in water purification, in water plants, and they still use it, and sewage plants. But then they started to use it and try it in the food industry to make the shelf life of different produce longer and make them fresh. However, in large scale, they could never apply the technology because they were using a so-called corona discharge technology to produce this ozone, and that technology was overheating, and at very large airflows, it wouldn't produce enough ozone simply. So they could not fill up like an industrial space. And this is where our inventors came into the picture, that they started to think about how can we produce enough ozone to be able to use at large scale, at industrial level, 2,000, 5,000, or as I said, 30,000 square foot of premises. And so this is how they ended up, after 10 years of testing and research and development, they ended up with their own patent, which is, it's called the limited flashover cold plasma technology. That's what we are using, and that's our patent. So nobody has this technology. This is very unique, simply because if anyone would use this technology, since we have the patent, please raise your hand, and we'll make a deal on a royalty.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
That we have the patent
Right.
for this technology, so no one can produce that because we have this.
And
so,
it came out of Hungary.
Yes, absolutely. It came out. The two inventors are from Hungary, and first they made all the researches and certificates and operating permits in Hungary, but very quickly I got involved through a family member, and we have managed to bring the whole patent and license into the United States.
Well, I am really grateful, because I think that this is going to just be amazing. Who that's listening to this would be the perfect person to go, I need this? Like, who, if they called you or contacted you because of this, seeing this interview, who's your market?
It's a very, very tricky question, because I have to say that anyone and everyone, wherever you need organic disinfection, you will need us and you will use us, and really, as I say, if you don't want to use chemicals, especially in industries, for example, organic food, in most organic food, you cannot use any chemicals, because if a chemical remains in the food after the disinfection, then it's not organic anymore. It will lose the status. However, our technology is USDA organic, so it is approved, and even to use it in the produce or in food items. For example, they do disinfect milk and yogurt products with ozone for this reason, because it can just kill the X amount of fungi they don't need, and then it just dissipates. The amazing thing about ozone is that it dissipates back within like 30 minutes into regular natural occurring oxygen, O2. So that's why it does not leave any residue, and that's why you cannot store it. You cannot keep it in a tank and just release some ozone gas, because even inside a tank, and it would dissipate back to oxygen.
Right. So O3 is unstable. It wants to be O2.
Exactly.
Okay.
It does not. Ozone or the oxygen molecules do not like the threesome. They want to be just a couple, and that single one they release, and that will do the oxidation. And the other ones remain as a pair, O2, and remain in the air. So the major areas right now are the poultry and egg industry, because right now in most places they are using formaldehyde, and formaldehyde is super toxic and carcinogenic. It does not come in to the food chain, so you will not end up eating formaldehyde. However, it can have a toxic effect on the workers of the hatchery, the workers of the breeder or the farm, and that's why they hate it. They really, the industry need a new method, but up till now there was no new method. However, right now we are already working together with the major breeders, Viagen, Hendrix Genetics, in the United States, and already we have exactly the same results with ozone as with formaldehyde, and that's what they want. That's what they wanted to reach, to have the same disinfection effect, and then they can leave formaldehyde away and only plug our machines in and do its job. The second most important industry is the grain and animal feed, because in those huge grain silos, corn or anything can easily get moldy, because of humid air, because not proper ventilation,
Yeah.
or not proper system. And we can treat, right now we treat up to 1,000 metric ton size of silos full of corn, and we blow through the ozone, it goes through the corn and released into a special fan system, gets into the air, goes back to oxygen, and you didn't even see or feel anything. It's just the corn is disinfected.
Wow. It's really amazing. So I think, again, the most exciting thing to me about this is the fact that we're not going to be pumping tons of chemicals into our atmosphere and our earth. And I'm wondering, along those lines of shifting into this new way of disinfecting, what do you think the ramifications are, that potential future ramifications of this technology?
I think that it is already, we see a lot of development within the different ozone generator producer. There is even right now a household small bottle that will inject from the ambient air a little bit of ozone into your water. So as you spray from that appliance, it sprays ozonated water, which is have a tinier effect than our super high concentration ozone gas, but still has enough effect that it will work just like a good vinegar solution, baking soda thing on surfaces or wiping down anything without leaving any trace or any residues. And other than that, I think that the how you say it, the government bodies or the governing bodies like EPA, FDA, USDA, they have to grow up to the technology, because ultraviolet C, ozone technology, any new natural chemical-free method are new to them also. So they do not yet have a law that would properly regulate the concentration, ozone concentration numbers, hours of treatment needed. So this is why from their side, from the regulatory body side, it's still in the very beginning. But the market, we are already in technology and developments are already way ahead, like 10, 15 years ahead, seriously. So I think the biggest burden right now is that we don't have enough lobby power or enough backup at the federal level to back these new technologies.
Okay, so is that a problem, or are you you're able to bring your product to market? Is
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just a bottleneck, because or many consumers, they love to see that, okay, this has been FDA approved, or yeah, this is USDA organic, then they checked it and then it's
It is USDA
yes,
organic,
it is.
but it's not
Thank
FDA approved.
FDA does not want to approve it, believe it or not, because it dissipates. So there's nothing to approve because it goes away.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. It's just a magic. Exactly. It's just it was there and disinfected it, but it's gone. And since you cannot store it, you cannot leak it, you cannot cause any trouble with it because it has to make in situ on site, they don't have jurisdiction over it. So that's actually really good. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, is the one that needs to put these new technologies, and as you said, not just ozone, but ultraviolet C or heat technologies into its list of approved disinfectants. But right now, as of right now, they still love their chemicals. And many people does. Many people do want to smell the Clorox because they, in their mind, they think that if I smell Clorox or Lysol, then it means it's clean.
But it's actually cleaner if you use ozone.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Because you can never spray a complete room, a roof, and all surfaces under, behind any nook and cranny. If you would do that, you would use 5 gallons of Clorox in one single bathroom, and then it's super toxic, super expensive, and very hard to manage with manpower.
Yeah,
so you don't want to do that.
Well, so this is the time of COVID, and there are more pandemics on the books, from what I gather. Do you think that this technology is an antidote to some of the insanity that we've experienced in the last year?
I hope so. It is certainly spreading, the technology, and more people use small or larger ozone generators to disinfect their homes, their RV, their rooms, and basically anything, their office, or really anything. And as you said, the future, unfortunately, just have more and more pandemics ahead of us. I do believe that there is a very bright future in these natural and very efficient disinfection technologies.
People are so freaked out about COVID, and I guess the idea of being able to go into a place, like if you went into the doctor's office and or you had to have surgery or whatever, and you knew that it was pathogen free in there, or that it had been treated the night before. I mean, right now, I think doctors' offices are just spraying down their surfaces. It's not, they're
absolutely, because this is because with any chemicals or any fogging, you need a resting time after the treatment. So with different chemicals, you need 1 day or 2 day or exact hours. And obviously a doctor's office or a hospital does not have a day. Not even at patient rooms, within 2-3 hours, there's a new patient in the room.
right.
So they need something that is quick.
Well,
and ozone can fill up the room within 10, 20, 30 minutes with the required high concentration of ozone gas, and then just disinfect the whole thing in another 20, 30 minutes. And within 1 hour, the next patient can already come in, and it's guaranteed, it's assured. There are numerous hundreds of studies right now, researches from peer-reviewed journals, that it kills the virus, it kills all bacteria and everything.
If you had an outbreak in a specific area or a specific hospital or a town, even if you knew that there was a COVID problem, you could, or if it had emanated from a daycare center or whatever, seems like you could just zap it and then there you go. I mean, it just seems like it would make people be able to kind of go back out into the world and feel better about not worrying about COVID.
Oh, absolutely. So the great thing is that you do not have any big logistic or supply chain involved with this ozone technology. So since it is plug and play, any military unit, U.S. Air Force field hospitals, a rural farmhouse, you name a rural hospital, they do not have to store chemicals and disinfectants for years that will be used or may not be used. Just with COVID-19, what was the big problem in the beginning? There was no disinfectants anywhere, and there was no masks anywhere because they couldn't produce. So people were really violent in stores trying to grab the last things, while whoever had the ozone generator was like sitting at home and just smiling because he could do it. He could disinfect every single day.
You have to have electricity.
That's the only thing. But electricity can also run from generators. Right. So as our best-selling unit loses less than 0.5 kVA, that's less than a light bulb here per hour. This means that even a small Honda generators or just a regular one could feed it, and then really you can take it anywhere and everywhere. You can just run it and disinfect. So absolutely, this will be this is already at the beginning of game changing, but will be a bigger game changer in the future.
Okay, so how brand new is this? I mean, you've been it obviously wasn't yesterday. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how long do you think before the word gets out and you're too busy to deal with all the business that you're getting?
I hope sooner than later. Yes, we cannot forget that chemicals have more than 120 years advantage over us. So that 120 years of marketing, of lobbying, being in regulations, being in people's minds, we will not be able to eradicate from one year to another. So obviously, I do believe that within the next 4 to 5 years, our ozone products and other ozone generators will be more a household appliance. Like many people have it already in their fridge because of the first they just used it for the smell. But if you put it in the fridge, there are small, very small $30 little ozone generators, and they will get your fridge mold free and scent free or odor free, really. So already these are on the market. I think it will catch up very, very, very soon.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us that I didn't think to ask you to cover?
I wanted to talk more about the safety of it. So really, with chemicals, you always have a very high risk of mixing the wrong chemicals, mixing them at the wrong temperature, then using them in the wrong temperature or dilution. And if it gets into the skin, most of them irritate, it causes burns, and causes a lot of hospitalization of employees of cleaning companies, hotel workers, everyone. And with the use of ozone in the past 30 years, I've checked, because you can look back 30 years of on-the-job accidents at the OSHA's website. And in the past 30 years, there has been just one incident with ozone at the Atlanta Aquarium, where 2 of the workers were exposed to high concentration of ozone. Both were only hospitalized for checkup and were released in 4 hours without any further problem or any permanent problem. While any other chemical, peracetic acid or anything that they use in the food industry, are very serious injuries. You have to involve fire brigade, hazmat crew, even to clean up, it's a fortune.
Wow.
So it's much easier for many companies, especially in the commercial and the industrial side, to invest in the new technology, which is then costs $0 to operate, because all you spend is less than 2 cents per hour. That's your operation cost. Sometimes, as a joke, I used to say in the food industry that, hey, if you get the machine, I'll pay for your first year electricity that you use on this machine.
Okay. So if someone wanted to contact you, say there's a chicken farmer who's listening to this and is like, dude, I totally want this technology. They would basically contact you, and then they could purchase a machine from you, or 2 machines, or whatever they need. And then that's the deal? Or I'm sure you have some training involved, or
Yes, obviously, because as we said and we discussed, it's after all, it's a toxic gas that we are creating. That's why there are a lot of safety measures that have to be in place.
so hold on, it's a toxic gas you're creating, but it leaves no residue. It's
Exactly.
toxic because it kills everything in the room. Because when I think of toxic gas, I would think, oh gosh, I'd walk in the room and the room would be toxic. But like you said, it totally goes away.
Exactly.
So, okay,
100%.
I interrupted you.
No, it 100% dissipates back to oxygen. So I always call it a magic. You know, the disinfection of the future is here around us. We breathe it in. You just need this little magic to switch it into ozone molecules to kill everything, and then switch it back so we can breathe again. That's what it is basically. And but going back to the original question, is we have three different kind of options. Obviously, as a company, we do have a direct buy, a direct purchase. Some major companies, bigger food companies, they love to purchase their assets and put them in the books. But there is a lease to own and also a rental, a monthly rental. The monthly rental we love to use with the commercial partners. Just like here in Austin, we have Ozone Clean. They are one of our partners, and they are renting these machines. So they did not have to invest upfront, a large sum, but already month to month, they can already gather the money or get the revenue to pay the rent.
Okay, so
So
how
that's
much?
for the service industry.
All right, so if this chicken farmer in West Texas wanted to buy one, how much does it cost?
Generally speaking, depending on his size, depending on the size of the machine and the setup, we have solution everything really from the $4,000 or $5,000 mark up to the $230,000 mark. So it depends on your need and your necessity. But when we are talking about price, I always love to talk about the value it creates, because you would say that, oh my goodness, $230,000 equipment. But in the food industry, it's not an expensive equipment. And just keep in mind that in 24 hours, I can disinfect your 1,000 metric ton corn that you could not sell because it had too many toxins, mycotoxins in it. Now, you don't have any other solution, or there are even much more expensive solution. So even for one silo, it would break even within 2-3 months. So it's really the value that it gives, not the price. Of course, the price is high for a residential buyer, because they would be more looking at Amazon for a small ozone generator. But let's be clear, whatever you can buy on Amazon, it will be good for odor and some basic sanitization of your rooms at home, but it cannot disinfect. This is why if you go online and you look for ozone companies or ozone disinfection service providers, other than us, nobody ever states that they disinfect. They always say we remedy mold or we cure odors or something, but none of them says that they are actually food grade or pharmaceutical grade disinfectors, because they're not, because they cannot produce the amount of ozone concentration that we can at large scale.
Okay, you just said mold.
Oh yeah, mold.
It kills mold.
Yes, it kills mold, absolutely. And it even kills the spores of the mold, that is the mold fungi releases to the air to fly away and then populate in other spots of your house. Yes.
Okay, so you could potentially do mold remediation with ozone.
Not even remediation, we eliminate mold. We can eliminate your mold, especially right now. We have a lot of inquiries because after this winter storm, if anyone heard, in Texas, a lot of water pipes were broken. A lot of houses got flooded, And right now they will all have a mold issue because our temperature is now back to normal. It's very nice, warm weather with the humid houses and humid, wet walls. Yes, mold will grow everywhere, and that will cause allergenic or allergic reaction, asthma. It will increase your thing. So it will cause a lot of trouble to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we are here to treat it.
It just keeps getting better and better. Well, so if someone wants to contact you, what's the website? How do they do that?
Our website is ozonepartner.com. So it's our name. And we like to call ourselves Ozone Partners because we always go and do a site visit, talk to you, consult you before we do any service or sales. So I want to listen to your problem. And if I cannot help you, I seriously will offer a better solution for you, or a better trick how you can go around instead of just pushing into a sales. Because if we cannot help you, we cannot help you. I want to be your partner in disinfection, not just a sales organization.
Okay, what's the situation in which you can't help?
There can be situations like, for example, in freezer houses. We had a lot of inquiries from industrial freezer houses to disinfect the freezing rooms, deep freezing rooms, because believe it or not, mold even grows at minus 100 degrees. It will still grow inside a cryo chamber.
Just like fancy mold.
Yes, it's I don't know. It's from the universe. It just comes, and obviously those freezer houses need disinfection, and they cannot use any chemicals because at that temperatures, anything that is not gaseous will freeze. But our ozone generators, we can only use them from outside because our ozone generators also will not be able to keep that super cold temperatures. So wherever or whenever we could not use or inject our ozone produced into the freezing room, we couldn't serve those people. And there are many of these because these freezer houses are huge, gigantic.
So they're just SOL.
Yeah, it's like
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so happy to know you, and I'm happy that you decided to come to Texas and do this here. How do you like it? How do you like Texas?
I love Texas. I right now I can say that I've been to, last time I counted, it was 36 states on business. So I traveled many poultry farmers, many grain farmers, many food and animal feed producers. So I visited 36 states, but whenever I come back to Texas on the border, because mostly I'm driving with the units behind me on the truck, I'm just so happy that, I'm back at home. It feels like home.
I think that's all I have. So unless there's anything else you can think of that we ought to cover about ozone, I think we've about done it. Yeah. We
covered most of the aspects. I cannot see because everything. There was safety, different uses, technology itself. Why is it better?
Yay. You can follow Freedom Junkie Radio on the Telegram channel, which I highly recommend. Facebook, YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. The best thing you can do to help Freedom Junkie Radio is to spread the word, because we're just getting off the ground, and I want to bring as many voices for freedom and ideas that help lift us into a better world like this one. I think freedom from chemicals is massive. So thank you, Istvan.
Thank you so much, Betsy, for inviting me, and thank you whoever was watching this.
Well, maybe you'll come back in 6 months or a year and tell us how things are going and how the technology is transforming and catching on. And so
I will certainly do so.
Okay, well, good luck. I hope that everybody is calling you now. I hope you get 5,000 phone calls from this. So.
Yeah, you should. After this, we should.
All right. Till next time.
I live better than a king ever did. I live better than a king. Oh, I don't need a thing. love